Hi, this is Steph with Stampin' and Scrappin' with Steph, and thanks for joining me today. This is the card that we will be making. It is, I call it the Very Delightful Thank You. It's super cute, and if you joined me on Sunday when I created my Sweet Strawberry Parcel box, you may be recognizing some of the products that I've used. So for this card, I stuck with using some new product from our Sale-a-bration and Mini Occasions catalog that will be live in just one day, January 5th, 2021. So I'm just going to switch over. Okay. So for this card, I used the Very Delightful Designer Series paper here and here, and the Sweet Strawberry stamp set, just like I did in the previous video. The Sweet Strawberry stamp set is sold as a bundle in the new mini catalog, and the bundle comes with this strawberry builder punch. And the Designer Series paper is also a bundle, but this one you can earn for free in the Sale-a-brations catalog. So this is the stamp set, and you can see the paper, which I've already kind of trimmed down into some bits because I've been using it. But this bundle right here is free with a $100 catalog purchase. Normally, or I shouldn't say normally, but in the last few years, Stampin' Up! Has added a level 2 to our Sale-a-brations. So if you spend $50, you get to choose one free item in the Sale-a-brations catalog here. But when you spend $100, you can opt for the level 2 products, which is usually a bigger stamp set or a bundle or some sort of product that is higher in value. So for this one, like I said, it's the Very Blessings stamp set and the Designer Series paper called Very Delightful. Now, usually when I make boxes or bags or something like that, you always want to have a card to kind of go along with it if you're giving it as a gift, or a tag or something like that. So for this one, I decided to do a card with a little thank you note on it. Isn't that cute? All right, super easy directions, no major cutting, basic layering for this card. Keeping it simple, but still having a lot of, like, I don't know, wow to the card. I think doing the dimensional style little strawberry there adds a extra touch. What do you think? Okay, so for this project, I used Poppy Parade as my card base. And if you're familiar with making card bases, if you start with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, you cut it down to 8.5. Well, we leave the 8.5, and then you cut it to 5.5. We're going to score it at 4.25, and just fold on that score line. Give it a nice burnish so it sits flat. All right, and then we're going to, I'm going to show you how to do the envelope. So you'll need a piece of Designer Series paper that's roughly about 2.5 by 6. You can go a smidge smaller, but you want to make sure that it's big enough for your envelope flaps. Okay. If you choose not to use Designer Series paper, you could certainly stamp on your envelopes. Designer Series paper, that's 4 by 5.25. So 4 by 5.25. Same thing with a piece of Whisper White. This will be the inside layer, 4 by 5.25. A piece of DSP that is 1 by 5.25. For this one, I chose Rich Razzleberry, and the Rich Razzleberry is 4.5 by 3.25. Another piece of Designer Series paper, and this is 4.25 by 2. A piece of Whisper White, that is 4.25 by 1. And then on Sunday's video, I showed you how to punch out a quick template to know how to align your stamps when using a punch that has multiple cutouts. So when you want to stamp and then punch it out, you want to know that where your I guess, stamping will line up properly. And what you do is you just take a piece of scrap paper, put it in your punch it out, and then what you would do is take your stamps, and you want the stamped side down, so whatever would touch the paper, and you just line them up in the little openings. And then you add your block on top, and when you lift it and then stamp down, these images will be in the right position for punching, and it helps to cut down that line up, or you get to trim off edges because you didn't get it in the right position. And for this card, I did the leaves and the stem, so I don't really need this little flower, but I left it there just I guess more for the alignment of it. Okay, so let's get going. So the first thing that I'm going to do is add my DSP to my inside layer. Now you don't have to do this. You could use either side. On the original card here, I did I'm going to call that like a gingham print. Looks like Granny Apple Green. For this one, I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to do the patterned side. This is a nice way to use up some scraps. You know, oftentimes we cut up our designer paper or cardstocks, and then we're ended up with these, you know, little pieces that you hang on to because you think you're going to use them for layering, and then they just kind of sit there like me. And you know, I always would stamp my envelopes, you know, to give a pretty little kind of gift for somebody when they receive it in the mail or you hand it to them. But I decided recently, since I was doing cards to go, and when we do our cards to go kit as a Stampin' Up demonstrator, we cannot sell products that are not complete with stamped images. So if I was giving you a kit to do this, I would have to exclude anything that's stamped unless you chose to purchase the stamp set itself. It's part of Stampin' Up's policy. So anyway, long story short, I just wanted to give my customers an opportunity to still be able to decorate the inside of their cards and envelopes without having to worry about too much stamping. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so what I like to do sometimes when I'm doing my layers, if there's not a lot of dimensionals added, I like to build my layers first before sticking it down on my card base. That way if I make any mistakes, my card base is still okay and I'm not peeling off and having to start all over. But you do this any way, you know, you're comfortable with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my rich razzleberry, and I'm going to adhere this to the middle. Next is this layer. And if you have not tried the new Stampin' Sale or Stampin' Sale Plus from Stampin' Up, I really recommend giving it a go. We recently had the snail that retired in our clearance or year-end sale, and those refills sold out immediately. So they definitely won't be back in the clearance section. So it took me a minute because I'm so used to using the snail, but now that I've gotten the hang of it, the adhesive is really great on it. It has a strong bond, and it does come out really smooth. Every now and then it gets a little kind of wonky, and you just kind of roll it forward, but it works well. Okay, so now we have these two layers added on our rich razzleberry, and I just realized I did that backwards. So on this card I added a strip of ribbon, and I just realized I didn't do that. So we're going to cut this at, let's say, about 6 inches. And this is a brand new ribbon called just a metallic ribbon. This is in Blushing Bride, and this is part of our new Love You Always suite in the Mini Occasions catalog. And if you look at the ribbon, one side has this really glittery side, And the other side, even though it's still shimmery, has a more satin look. So for the original card, I used this side. So for this side, this card, I'm going to use the more glittery one. And what I'm going to do is just run the adhesive down the card, excuse me, down the ribbon. And I'm going to stick this on and gently lift up because, like I said, I forgot. I get talking and then forget where I'm going here. But no worries. So just make sure before you put your Razzleberry layer down, you have your ribbon on. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to stamp my greeting, which I chose the thank you. And I'm going to stamp that in Poppy Parade. Right here. Now I'm going to add my adhesive. And honestly, I'm probably using more than I need to stick my layers down. This adhesive is really strong. It's one of those things that it's kind of like less is more, I guess. All right. So now we're going to do our strawberry. And just like I did for the parcels box, I'm going to stamp 3 leaves. And I only need 1 stem. But I'm just going to keep going with keeping all of the stamps on my piece of paper. And I'm just going to go all the way down. And I'm going to take my punch and line up. Alright, I'm going to take out my leaves. I need 1 stem. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing for my strawberries. So you need a piece of scrap Poppy Parade. This is obviously way too big, but I didn't end up cutting it down. So you can just cut it down. Keep in mind that when you punch out your strawberries, the strawberry is upside down. And then if you notice here where I've already punched out 2, you can see where you need some extra spacing because when you punch, it automatically punches those out. So unless you cut your paper really kind of exact, it makes it hard to just punch out the strawberry, if that makes sense. Because when you put it in, you know, unless I trim the paper to the exact length, but I didn't want to go through that. And just punch it out. And you need 2. Oops. And it would be a little bit easier if I trimmed my paper down. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of the pieces I don't need. And then if you saw me do the parcel package, you'll see that I took one of the strawberries and folded it in half. And then I'm going to take my stem with my bone folder and just curl under where the leaves are, just to kind of give it a little bit of a bend. It'll sit better on the strawberry. And then you're just going to stick the stem up like that. And for this one, I chose to use the Tombow glue. I found that because of the way that this paper is folded, it was just easier assembling it with the liquid. You could try glue dots. Alright, and then I'm going to add some glue to the top here. And then I stick my stem on, just like that. Super cute. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside and let that one dry. I already made one ready to go here, just to kind of keep moving along. And then what I did was I'm going to add a couple dimensionals to the back of the strawberry. You could just do one in the middle, but I'm going to do two. And I'm going to stick that right there. And then I did use glue dots on my leaves. And I just tuck them under. All right. So now you have the outside of your card, oops, the inside of your card, and now we just need to do our envelope. And this is super easy. Again, scraps work well when you have smaller pieces. So I cut mine to about 2.5 by 6. You can go a little bit smaller with your cuts, if you see, but I find that gives me enough kind of like room to cut around. So what you're going to do is add your adhesive to your flaps close to the edge, and this card, if you were going to put it through the mail, I probably would bring it into the post office, just because the strawberry does pop up a little bit. So if you run it through the machine, it may hurt the strawberry. You could certainly just do the flat version of it, just, you know, not do the folded, and it would be fine. But okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your snips and you're just going to cut along the edge. Now what I find when I've had some people do this, they say, you know, I get a jagged edge. When I cut around things, it doesn't look straight. The only thing that I can think of is you're cutting short strokes, so like you're snipping kind of like this. My suggestion is to go all the way in with your scissors and then cut in a straight line. And I have found that works for me to keep my edges nice and smooth. Hope that makes sense. All right, so then here's your envelope and the card that we just completed. Thank you for joining me today. Happy stamping.